On October 7th, the world was shocked to witness terrorist attacks being carried out at different places inside Israel. Israel's intelligence agency, Mossad, had failed. This was a wake-up call to intelligence agencies across the world. 1,000 terrorists were apparently prepared for this attack over a period of 2 years, right under the nose of Israeli agencies. Mossad has a mammoth budget of $3 billion and 7,000 employees. Yet, it could not predict such a massive attack where 700 people have been declared dead and hundreds of others injured. Irony is, on October 1st, Israel's National Security Advisor, Zachi Hanibi, said that for the past 2 years, Hamas has not initiated any rocket launches as a part of its decision to curb its violence. Israeli experts have now come forward to explain how in 4 steps Mossad was fooled. This can happen to any intelligence agency across the world. The 4 steps were deception, cooperation, narrative building, final execution, and diversion tactics. Hello everyone, welcome to Resonant. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our content. Retired military general Yaakov Amidror, who served as Israel's national security advisor between 2011 and 2013, points out to 3 levels of failure. There was operational failure of Israeli intelligence services to detect the well-organized attack, then there was the army's inability to block it, and finally, Israel's broader take on Hamas was entirely flawed. He said, "We made a huge mistake, including me, in believing a terror organization can change its DNA." Between 2021 and 2023, Israel was undergoing a politically turbulent phase. This is when Netanyahu and the ex-Mossad chief were accused of corruption. The country saw an unprecedented amount of protests, and Naftali Bennett's government had come to power, though it lasted for just 1 year. All that while, the Hamas was planning an attack on Israel. Israel was also concentrating on the Ukraine war. Earlier this year, in January, America had moved its stored ammunition in Israel to Ukraine. The deception phase started with Hamas managing to create an impression that their focus was on the economy, while Hamas conducted training for an attack, even in plain sight. Israel, in turn, misinterpreted this training as mere posturing. As per the Hamas-related group statement, the final plan was made in August. Iranian IRGC officers have collaborated with Hamas since August to strategize for an aerial, terrestrial, and maritime invasion. But the practice for this began as early as 2021. During the final attack, terrorists used bulldozers, hang gliders, and motorbikes to challenge the most powerful army in the Middle East. In the last 2 years, Hamas has managed to conceal its military plans and convince Israel that they are not seeking a confrontation. One of the most remarkable tactics involved constructing a simulated Israeli settlement within Gaza. Within this mock settlement, they practiced military landings and conducted training exercises for a storming operation. They even created videos documenting these maneuvers. Despite these activities being visible to Israel, Israeli agencies were convinced that Hamas had no real intention of engaging in a confrontation. While we believed that a radical body that takes power gradually becomes moderate, Hamas was gaining strength and preparing for the next stage of their war. Meanwhile, during its meetings with IRGC officials in Beirut, Lebanon, Hamas came up with a strategy aimed at creating a situation similar to the surprise attack that occurred during Yom Kippur War 50 years ago, when Egypt and Syria caught Israel off guard, forcing it to fight for its existence. On the other side, Israel was of the opinion that economic progress of Gaza would reduce radicalization. Gaza is economically poor because it is isolated. After Gaza was taken over by Hamas in 2007, nobody from Gaza was allowed to work inside Israel. But after 15 years, Israel changed its heart. In 2021, just 7,000 Palestinians could work inside Israel. By 2023, the demand for work permits had risen to 20,000. Hamas's strategy was clear. Instead of carrying out smaller attacks, they would carry out one massive attack, overwhelming the Israeli forces. Hence, Hamas, over the last few years, had been publicly projecting an image of reluctance to engage in a fight or confrontation with Israel, while secretly preparing for the large-scale operation. Hamas's display of restraint to fight Israel generated a lot of public criticism from some of its supporters, with the aim of reinforcing the perception that Hamas was primarily concerned with economic issues rather than initiating a new war. In the West Bank, there were individuals who ridiculed Hamas for maintaining a low profile. In a statement issued by Fatah in June 2022, Hamas leaders were accused of leaving their people in poverty in Gaza while living in luxurious villas and hotels in Arab capitals. Israeli agencies believe that Yahya al-Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, was more focused on governing Gaza than on hostile actions towards Israel. During this time, Israel shifted its attention away from Hamas as it pursued a deal to normalize relations with other countries in the Middle East. The final execution. According to the WHA report, Iran granted final approval for the recent attack involving Hamas in Beirut just last week. The report also reveals that Iranian security officials assisted in planning Hamas's unexpected attack on Israel with authorization given during a meeting in Beirut last Monday. Israel has traditionally prided itself on its ability to infiltrate and monitor terrorist groups. This is why it was crucial for Hamas to prevent any leaks of information. Many Hamas leaders were kept in dark about the plans, and even the 1,000 terrorists involved in the assault had no knowledge of the exact purpose of their training exercises. On the day of the operation, it was divided into 4 parts. 1. The initial phase involved launching a barrage of 3,000 rockets from Gaza while simultaneously conducting incursions by terrorists who used hang gliders or motorized paragliders to cross the border. Once the terrorists on hang gliders had touched down, they secured the area to facilitate the entrance of commando-trained terrorists who aimed to breach the fortified electronic cement wall built by Israel to prevent infiltration. Explosives were used by the terrorists to breach the barriers, and they rapidly crossed over on motorbikes. Bulldozers were employed to widen the gaps, allowing additional terrorists to enter using 4-wheel drives. Taking hostages. This was a strategy that worked massively in favor of Hamas. Hamas knew Israel will retaliate, and hence taking hostages was important. Terrorists who were commando trained assaulted the Israeli army's southern Gaza headquarters and disrupted its communication systems, rendering the soldiers unable to contact their commanders or colleagues. The last phase involved the transfer of hostages to Gaza, which was largely accomplished during the early stages of the attack. Terrorists kidnapped party-goers, leaving a rave near the kibbutz of Relim near Gaza. As gunshots were heard, dozens of people were captured on social media racing through the fields and down a road. The Israeli security source questioned how could this party occur this close to Gaza. The Israeli security forces also claimed that due to certain troops being redeployed to West Bank to safeguard Israeli settlers after a spike of violence between them and terrorists, Israeli troops were not at full strength in the southern part of the country near Gaza. This was what was exploited by Hamas. Political chaos, few years of internal turbulence, misjudging the enemy's capability to overwhelm, and distraction. This is what led to the massive terrorist attack on Israel. Let's hope peace returns in the region soon.